John Cuddeback, here with my wife, Sofia. This is The Intentional Household, a LifeCraft podcast, where we seek timeless wisdom for our time. Today's episode is homesteading for everyone.
Wow, that is an extremely provocative question. I think especially nowadays, people are really asking that question with some force and a lot of curiosity. So this is going to be a very fun episode that we're going to be just delving into that a little bit. And I'm going to just hope I don't throw you off too much by saying, you said, is homesteading for everyone? What's the answer? Yes or no? Can we start with the answer and then maybe work our way backwards? What do you think? What's the answer?
Well, normally in class, my approach is we need to work on this a while before the answer. But then again, sometimes I think that's not bad. And here, I'm not saying this is the perfect answer, but I'm going to make a suggestion. I think we're going to need to make a distinction, but ultimately the answer is yes. And I think in the most important sense of homesteading, I think it is for absolutely everybody.
Wow.
And I actually think more than that, I think this is not going to culminate in, so you simply have to get out there and get a cow. There's something much deeper. Homesteading in the most important sense is for everybody. And I think this is going to take us right to the heart of what it is to have a home. I think in thinking about this and thinking about it reasonably well, if we can do that, we're going to discover something that we're all suffering with, that we're all challenged by, that we're all working with in the very difficult age in which we live. In many ways, homesteading, in the most important sense, is something that will heal a kind of central wound in our life.
Wow, that's incredibly exciting, but also incredibly intriguing too. So why don't we start out by talking about some of these distinctions that you said we need to make in order to understand in what sense is it that everyone should be homesteading?
Okay, well, great. How about this? Let's say homesteading in the first sense, in the most important sense, let's say, is this: to make your home a place of meaningful work that unites you and the people in your home and unites you to your body and to the earth.
Wow. So the word you kept saying over and over again is unites.
Yes.
Unites.
Yep.
So I think that's really key, because I think as moderns, we're really nervous about working, TGI Friday, we're all working toward going away from work, resting from it. So I love that notion, work that unites us.
And meaningful work.
Meaningful work that unites us to one another and to our bodies. Awesome. That's an amazing,
I think
broadening notion.
I think it is. Because at the end of the day, I think work is the kind of missing key. It's the hidden thing here that has been taken from our homes. This rich kind of work that should be so central in our life in causing this kind of unification, this drawing together. That's what's especially been missing. And of course, home is the place where that especially should be happening. So again, I say homesteading in this broader sense, I kind of say homesteading for everybody, is to make your home a place of meaningful work that unites you to your body. Well, first, unites you to the other people, unites you to your body, and unites you to the earth. This is something that should be going on in absolutely every home. Maybe before you make me explain that, how about if I just go ahead and say the other homesteading?
Great.
How about
Super.
that?
Go for
So
it.
then the homesteading, in the second sense, is what most people think of when they think of the term homesteading, which is fine. But one of the things I'm really going to suggest is we need to think of that first sense first, the sense that absolutely is fine for everybody. But here's homesteading in the more narrow sense that we're used to hearing it, and for good reason. It's to make your home a place of meaningful work that unites the people and unites you to your body and the earth through doing significant agricultural work. And that's what most of us think of when we think of homesteading, and with good reason. But I'm going to say that's homesteading in the back to the earth sense. That's the homesteading in the fully kind of agricultural sense.
Right. Yeah, that's exciting. So the second meaning of homesteading is more a way of a particular kind of way of uniting to other people in your household,
Right.
your children, your spouse, uniting yourself with your body, being united with the land. So it sounds like homesteading too is a specific way of doing homesteading in the first sense that you were talking about.
I think that's right. And in short, I think, so here I out on it, and then we can go dig in more deeply. Is homesteading for everyone? In the most important, broad sense of homesteading, the answer is absolutely yes. Is homesteading for everyone? Not necessarily in the second sense, but to think clearly about whether we want to homestead in the second sense, we need to first have an appreciation of the first sense. And really, I think it is important to recognize one can homestead in that sense without necessarily doing the move into the country and getting a cow. Though at the same time, the more we think about homesteading the first sense, we might recognize, yeah, actually that going to the country and getting a cow might be more important than I realized.
Right, exactly. And I would be interested to draw you out a little bit about the question of whether agricultural homesteading has a merit in itself, or is maybe a better way than other ways to unite us. Well, we'll go back to that. But first, I just want to ask you if you think that there's a kind of a built-in need in man for this unity. Why? I'm just wondering, it seems like people are asking this question so much over and over again from all walks of life, all ages, all backgrounds seem to have this drive to go back to some kind of homesteading. And I'm just wondering are we experiencing that because of the incredible push against unity with other people, unity with our body, unity with the land that is technology driven? What do you think are some of the forces that are making people ask this question in a really what seems like an urgent way?
And that I'm very glad to go in that direction, because I think really to understand the issue, we begin with just experientially. Look, so many people are asking this. Right? I mean, this is probably the most common question that I'm asked out of the clear blue. You get a phone call, I get an email, someone at the website just saying, "Hey, thinking of moving to the country." Often, particularly someone's out thinking to move into your area there in the Shenandoah Valley. Can you help me think about this? Well, okay. So we don't need the data. It's clear on our own experience. A lot of people are asking why. Right? Surely it's rooted in something that pertains to us as humans. Right? Many are experiencing something missing. So I think we need to get philosophical a little bit. And this is how I would say it. The work that we just referred to in the home, we do have a natural need for this. And it is a natural context. Why do we have that natural need? Because it's a natural context to experience these kind of unities, these connections. They're such an important part in human life. First of all, to a small number of people with whom we live every day. Also, and especially to our body, those that are very connected to one another. And also, and especially to the earth. Each of these connections are very much interconnected. I think that's going to become very apparent the more we just think about the history of homesteads, the history of households. Where is it that people most experience these things? It's in a home where there's a certain kind of work that brings people together, is a very natural and profound way of living in your body. This, I know it sounds a little kind of weird. What do you mean be united to your body or connected to your body? But I think that's one of the most characteristic things of our age. We're being disconnected from our body at the same time that we're being disconnected from one another and being disconnected from the earth. This is going on all around us. This is something that is pushed upon us in many ways by our technology.
Yeah, I can totally see that. I mean, when you use the word united to other members in our family, united to our body, united to the earth, that's all very exciting. But I get even more excited when you say those things are interconnected with one another. I wonder if the excitement that I'm feeling is kind of a sign that this interconnected unity is something that man is designed for.
I think so. I absolutely think so. And this is why we need to think about it more. We need to really try to understand it better, because there's something natural in us speaking, but often we're not sure what it's saying. How many people do I talk to? They're kind of yearning for something, and they vaguely associate that with, well, kind of, let's get back to the land. Let's kind of get back to those connections. But something we have to be aware of, just going to live in the country, especially today, this is a big challenge. Going to live in the country, you aren't necessarily going to get reconnected with people or even your own body or the earth, given that in so many ways, rural communities have been simply torn apart. And so it's not, I remember once, dear, you were actually there, we were there together listening to a lecture by Wendell Berry, and he pointed out, sometimes people come up to him and say, Mr. Berry, I read your books, and I kind of went out and bought a farm, and well, this is just not really working very well. And he kind of chuckled and said, the point of my thinking and reflecting on agrarianism is not that everyone needs to go out and buy a farm. It's a little bit more complicated than that. So that's why I think we need to get a little bit philosophical. We need to look at what those connections are that we are craving, look at the particular challenge of our time, and then figure out what to do.
Yeah, so I think kind of what you pointed to there, that moving to a farm, milking a cow doesn't necessarily connect you. It has a tendency, it's a work that has a tendency to push you that way. But we as moderns could go through all of that relocation and different activities and still not be connected. So clearly it has something to do with our intention, how we go into that environment. So why don't you just kind of flesh that out a little bit more so that we can understand? I mean, keep talking about principles. Yeah, let's dive into some of those principles.
Okay. All right. Well, how about this? I think this, to give a little bit more of an analysis of what's missing, will help us think more clearly about what we want.
Sounds
and
great.
About what we need.
Yeah, good.
And so, I mean, here I am very much following Wendell Berry and some other great authors who really just emphasize the kind of the disconnection we're experiencing. And another thing that really struck me reading Wendell Berry once was he said, we are living by and large in rebellion from manual labor, from work that we do with and in our bodies.
Yeah, wow.
And he actually even broadens that out and says that that's kind of a sign of the broader thing, that we are being separated from our bodies, disconnected from our bodies. And this has great philosophical implications. And particularly, hey, as a philosopher, I'm teaching the philosophy of human nature. Central is soul-body composition, soul-body unity. Man is being a soul in a body, and the profound connectedness there. There's so much richness, but it's an alarm bell when the tendencies of our time tend to make us feel separate, alienated from our own body, alienated from the natural things that we would have tended to do in our bodies. And I think one of the easiest ways to see this and start to think about more is to think about our technologies. Look, think about our phone. Think about the computer, of how much communication we are doing now with people to whom we are not bodily present. I'm not saying that is somehow always wrong or not to be done, but think about how we so often in our day are using technologies that, as it were, take us away from where we are bodily. It's almost like, doesn't matter where your body is, you can be doing this or that or anything kind of anywhere. So we are almost encouraged to ignore the body and its limitations. Let me give you another thing I think is right with that. The fact that there's this constant drive in our technological advancement to come up with gadgets that replace bodily work, as though it's always given that this will be good. Mm-hmm. Here's the gadget you need in your kitchen. Yeah. Here's the gadget you need in your yard. Here's the gadget you need in your car, in the office, anywhere you are. We're going to remove that old work where you actually had to used to do it yourself with your body, we're going to come up with technologies that will replace that, with the hidden premise and implication always being that it's better if you don't have to do it with your body. It's almost like you start to wonder, well, what do I have this thing for anyway?
Yeah, yeah. And it definitely has an additional aspect that it seems that the work that you do in a virtual way, the connecting with people that you're not with bodily, it seems to have a kind of hierarchy of importance, like it's somehow more important than doing the physical labor in your home that's serving someone particular that you are living with.
Yeah,
and so
yeah.
it gives kind of a false importance in the hierarchy of goods that somehow that communication or that connection is better, and kind of seems to denigrate the work that actually is serving the particular person, home, community that you're in.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of a double-edged
yeah,
sword. So
yeah,
not
yeah,
only
yeah.
does it actually take you away, it kind of casts it in a bad light, the work that you do, the
agree.
manual work that you do. Yeah, that's really.
And this so much comes home to roost in our home. It's the home life, especially, that gets eviscerated by this whole tendency of kind of being alienated from our bodies and from the work that we do in our bodies, because home, I'd say by a plan of nature, is precisely where that kind of day-to-day being in your body, living and working in these very simple, natural ways in our body, that is where in the home that was most done. And that's not just accidental. It's funny. We live in a time where now we're able to even, I dare say, philosophize with new insight, where, and most of the early authors that I read, they couldn't have pictured there being a different kind of form of the home where you didn't have to do this kind of daily work, really.
Yeah.
At least for most people, in any case. But now here it is. So now we have to ask ourselves, oh, okay, well then, is this better? Was it a reasonable goal to kind of have to remove the supposed, and times it is a kind of burden you can experience as a burden, the day-to-day bodily labor? Do we have a net gain by these technological advances that have removed this? And I said, this very much feeds into our whole thing of, we feel alienated from those that we should be closest with in our own home. We feel alienated from our bodies. We feel alienated from the earth. Lo and behold, nature is teaching us. We're learning, wow, we really, go back to your point from earlier, this is something that is speaking in all of us. The question is, are we going to listen? Are we going to take this opportunity, kind of receive the grace of learning? Nature is speaking. We need to be doing something different in our homes. We need to reconnect. We need to reconnect with one another. We need to reconnect with our bodies. We need to reconnect with the earth. And I think this notion of homesteading is exactly how we can do it.
Yeah, so you almost seem to be saying that the home is the natural context in which these unions, these connections are made. And if that's the case, then I'm beginning to see here why you say that homesteading is for everyone. So not necessarily agricultural homesteading, but homesteading, the making of, the crafting of, the building, the living in a home, which is a place of meaningful work that unites us. Then it sounds like that's really for everybody.
Well, I think it is. And so, but this is going to be demanding. There's so much involved here. I can't sort this all out right now, but it's all pieces in the puzzle. We're going to have to think about technology. We're going to have to think very reasonably, because surely many, and I know people who are tempted, and understandably tempted. I'm one of those ones that's tempted to become what's called a Luddite. If you don't know, historically, that was a movement of people first rejecting the Industrial Revolution. They just said, hey, all these two technologies, they're ruining our life. So they just became against technology in general. Understandably, because they were seeing right there kind of firsthand the problem. But we can't become a Luddite. We can't just say, all right, we're going to, just live totally off the grid, not have any of these technologies. I think we're going to have to learn to use technologies to integrate them into a life, but a life that is an appropriate kind of homesteading. So we have that kind of whole technology issue. We've got the issue of how's this fit with our primary profession? How are we going to support our families today? So I mean, this issue of homesteading now has to be considered in the age in which we are, in the very concrete circumstances we are. So the upshot here is not going to be, okay, well, again, I guess we just have to kind of leave that all behind. There's no such thing as, quote, leaving that all behind. So the tough thing before us is how can we think about homesteading, first of all, in this broad sense, for absolutely everybody, starting in our homes right now, maybe not changing our profession, maybe we need to keep the exact same job that we have, but where can we, how can we start to kind of rebuild and to focus in our own homes?
Yeah, that's great. I'm wondering, so obviously if we are homesteading in the first sense, so the non-specifically agricultural sense, it seems like there would be certain kinds of work that we would do that would be more conducive to the household. And then a secondary question, and you can approach these whichever way you think is best to approach which one first, is what is the role of agriculture in a homestead in the first sense? Because the three unities we're talking about is the people that we live with and our bodies and also the land. So the land is one of the important unities. Is the only way that we can pursue that through kind of an agricultural homesteading? Is there another way that the agricultural context can be somehow pursued if we're in a more urban situation or setting? And is it necessary to do some form of agricultural work to achieve the unity with the body?
Yeah. And with the earth. Great. And that's where, all right, let's just kind of dig more deeply into this distinction. I am suggesting in saying that homesteading in the universal broad sense of making your home a place of meaningful work, and saying that that's for everybody, to some extent, key in that is going to be something in the broad sense of agricultural, but not really agricultural in the full sense. Let's just think about connection to the earth. A home is always in a particular place. Hey, even if you're in an apartment building, which I hope at the end of the day you're not. Because honestly, I think that that's not going to be the most conducive place. Even there, we can talk about, all right, how can you make it a place of meaningful work? And then I'm going to encourage you all to start with the basics. Have a balcony, and have some plants growing there, and take an approach of stewardship and be thinking about how I'm still in a place. So any place we are, we can do our best to be connected to the earth. But even then, let's go, hopefully you're not on the third or fourth floor of something, even if you're just in a condominium. Hopefully you have a little piece of land, boom. I'm going to say right from the start, key for everybody. Don't see it as a yard or lawn. Make it a steading. Mm-hmm. Make it a steading. Yeah. There's a great old English word, the very word homestead is connected to it. In a steading, have a sense of a place where you are working the land. Make your yard or your lawn a steading, and that can be through how we are just making some simple plantings. Do we have a teeny just raised bed? Are we feeding birds? Are we just aware of the water and what plants and approaching the land in a stewardship kind of way? Basically, 99 out of 100 homes are going to be in a circumstance to be able to do this. And that's where and that is going to connect you to your body and to the earth, to just have a profound sense of, even if I'm not on a farm, I'm in a place, I'm on the land in some sense, and I'm going to live that.
Yeah, so I think it helps to, when we use the word agriculture, I think most of us tend to think of agribusiness. Huge, massive fields producing tons of something for an economic purpose. We should be thinking of the word agriculture as contact with the soil. And so agriculture can refer to the pot, that's the container plant that you're growing tomatoes in on your balcony, right? So that's what we're kind of need to stretch our concept of what agriculture actually means and be open to it being on a very small scale, where you still nevertheless have to be a steward and you're engaging with the soil and you have to observe and you have to receive.
Amen.
Right?
Well said. But that said, then let's note though that in this homesteading in the broad sense is not going to be reducible to, okay, you just got to get your fingers in the earth. Having your fingers in the earth is great. And really having a sense, again, of connectedness to it in whatever simple ways that can be done. Being aware of the trees, being aware of the plant, planting certain kinds of things, pruning, your raised bed. All of those are a very important part. But then there's other kinds of rich work that unite you to one another and to your body. And I'd say even to the earth, maybe not to the earth quite as much, but carpentry work with wood, when you have a sense and a love for wood, you know where wood came from. Mm-hmm. That connects you to the earth. Mm-hmm. And so to see working the traditional home arts, look, one of the key home arts is the preservation of food. You don't have to have grown that food yourself. You can acquire this food from someone who is, of course, growing it from the earth, hopefully, ideally, in a way that is a stewardship kind of way. That's a great thing to look for, but if you can't, then make that a goal. If you have to get it from the supermarket, we're getting it from the supermarket. But then now we are developing a key home art. It is a shared work, something we can do together, something is beautifully bodily and can connect you to the earth, though you're not working directly with the earth. You're working with the fruits of the earth, with an appreciation of where these have come from. Mm-hmm. That any homestead can do, and that's any home can do, and that's a kind of homesteading.
So do you think that it would be a good way when we're considering what kind of works we're going to do in the home, that maybe a meter that we could use to judge whether the work is meaningful or something that we should choose over another is its capacity to unite us? And not necessarily maybe in different degrees to all three of those areas that we're hoping to be united, but if it serves to unite in one, often it includes the other. And so maybe we could use that as a standard of measurement, of judgment of whether a work is the kind of work we want to be fostering in our home. Does it unite me with those I live with?
This is, and you've seen the way that those three connections are interconnected by a kind of natural plan. The ones that do connect you more with your body and the earth are the ones that most obviously and straightforwardly do connect you with other people. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's where just get some images here of the whole family working together to grow food is an obvious instance of it. But now let's stick with where there's not agriculture going on in the big deeper sense. Making food, the art of making food well, and then the art of preserving food. It's very much in the body. You're working with, fleshy things and beautiful colors and smells, right? Sure, you have a sense of your body. This isn't scrolling through a phone. Mm-hmm. This is salting the beets to make a relish. Mm-hmm. This you feel in your body, particularly since you're picturing eating this also. In these works very much lend themselves to, again, doing together with one another. But let's go. Food is always a place to start. Making clothing, mm-hmm. making furniture or just decorative things in the home, very embodied, hopefully using more simple, maybe tools if possible, with hopefully natural substances. Is it stone? Is it metal? Is it wood? Is it earth? Mm-hmm. This connects us to the earth through these natural things, very much something you do in your body, the kind of home arts that traditionally, in some sense, people simply did because they had to. Now we know maybe we have to do them in a different sense. You could stay alive and obviously make a life, we can see that, without doing these arts. So maybe you miss something if we've set aside all these home arts.
Yeah. Well, I find this very exciting, actually, and very encouraging because it just seems to be showing that there are so many small ways that you can do this thing called homesteading. It can be just kind of overwhelming if you're not already kind of a gardener type of person or someone who's good with animals, that you're just going to go drop everything, buy a 20-acre farm and start milking cows. That's just kind of like, it makes my heart contract when I think about that. It's totally not my thing to do that kind of thing. So it's very encouraging and exciting that we can actually start creating a homestead by choosing the work that we do and being aware of its unifying properties. And we can make that kind of a goal of the home that we live in. And it has this feeling of creating a place that's vibrant and pulsating and
Amen.
creating something really, really beautiful. And that doesn't require me to have to drop everything and go live off the grid or something like that. So I actually find it incredibly encouraging.
Well, you should be encouraged. We should be encouraged. Everyone should be encouraged. It means to be simply easy. Homesteading, like life, is always about people. And so we're concerned about work and finding good work because of the beautiful fruits that it has in the life of people. And this is why, especially if we're parents, if we're married, if we're looking about making a home that kind of for others, especially first of all for our children, but not just them, the generations beyond that, and friends and others can be involved. We're thinking about this whole homesteading thing. It is in the context of it's about real human flourishing, rich human flourishing. This kind of work, the bodily work, it's not an end in itself. It's not the highest thing one can do, but it's a context. And it's a way of bringing people together. And again, us together with our bodies and with the earth, ultimately for the sake of higher things. There's higher things beyond this, but we funny humans, that's kind of where we begin. It's the daily stuff of life. And so it's absolutely critical that we all can have this homesteading attitude that is rooted in a fuller life for those we love and with those we love. How can we make our home a place of fuller, richer life, like you said, pulsing with life? That's what homesteading is about. That's what's going to make us look for, especially, a certain kind of work. Life isn't only work. We can talk another time about leisure, but there's a kind of straightforward, kind of foundational aspect, I think, of the work of daily life. We can homestead, look for this kind of work that's going to transform our home, wherever our home is. So if we're interested in homesteading, which I think we all should be, you don't have to just think, where's my place in the country? We start with, what am I doing right now? Wherever I live, with a certain kind of meaningful work. Then we can go on and talk about, well, okay, but maybe you do want to go to the country.
Yeah, that's exciting. It really sounds like at the heart of all of this is kind of a renewed understanding or notion of work. I really do think that if we can start recreating our perception of what the word work means, and that we see it as a means of being united with and for those who are with us, persons in our life, then it begins to, all of us have work in our life. And it's, in a certain sense, unless we see it that way, we're squandering the work that's given to us. Like, there's certain things that even technology hasn't been able to take away from us that we just, and a lot of them are really fundamental domestic activities. If you're eating off a plate, you're going to have to wash it, but it just strikes me that if we have the wrong notion of what work is, and we don't really understand the power of work for something so far beyond it towards something greater, then we squander the work that we have. So I love this conversation because it's really making me realize you don't have to import any new work. You can just start engaging in the work that you already have with a different kind of intention. And then it begins to bear a different kind of fruit.
Amen. Especially starting in your home. We could talk about work out in the quote workplace as an interesting, what a modern term, as the workplace it is the opposite of home. And there's so much is written into that. It's a change since the Industrial Revolution. Of workplace, it names a place that's not your home. And that's how I just unconsciously use the term.
Sure.
But it gets just using the way we use it now, kind of your workplace that's out there. That work too can be a gift. That can be transformed by a better attitude. That's not what we're talking about right now. Right now, we're talking about the work we do in our home, receiving that gift, maybe transforming that work in view of the deeper calling to live together in a certain kind of way. And that's the place to begin. But hey, I think it's people will reasonably wonder, and we should ask the question, why is it that kind of back to the land, back to that richer, fuller kind of agriculture? Why is that something that people are finding themselves naturally wanting to turn to, there's a reason for that. And maybe I toss out this at you. The great Xenophon, contemporary of Plato, he said agriculture is the mother of all arts.
Mm.
And I think there's so much to see there is a unique power, significance to tilling, working the earth, and tilling and stewarding and taking care of animals. It is by a natural ordination, it is particularly powerful as something that is done in the homestead. And I think we could say a lot about how what we call agriculture has been falling away from its true self to the extent that it has been taken away from family farms, from homesteads that work in this way. But at the moment, let's not talk about the critique of agribusiness. We're asking a question about homesteading. And I think it's worth our saying, hey, there is good reason. If you really want to do homesteading, in the sense that we're all called to do, it is worth a close look. Would it fit your life? Does it make sense, all things considered, for the flourishing of your household? Does it make sense to even move that household to a different place where you can maybe sink roots in and start to have that deeper connection to one another, to your body, and to the earth through agricultural practices that are as old as man?
Yeah, that Xenophon, agriculture is the mother of all arts, is really just a staggering quote.
Isn't it?
It's really staggering. It just makes you realize that some kind of agricultural activity is actually essential to a homestead. So again, we said, whether it's in your raised bed container or whether you're, milking cows, it really I think it's really worth thinking about that and kind of fleshing that out a little bit. In what sense, why does agriculture foster all arts?
Yeah.
I mean, that's really the stuff of some really deep thinking there.
It is. And we should have a whole other conversation about that. Maybe even get out Xenophon, look at it. But just a teaser on that, because I love reading him on this. He says things like this: working the land teaches you fundamental things about life. He says it teaches you justice.
Wow.
Isn't that?
Wow.
And one of the reasons he says that is because the land gives you fruits in accord with what you put into it.
Wow.
It doesn't encourage this kind of, hey, you too can cut corners. There's so many things. It's always, always seeing that on the hair. I don't know about you, what demographic I'm in that always gets these ads popping up for me of you can make a lot of money without doing much of anything. Hey, that sounds like a great idea. I mean, you can see why this is appealing. You know what? Agriculture doesn't teach you that. Real agriculture does not teach you that. It teaches you a much better lesson. Work hard, and you will be rightfully compensated.
Yeah.
You will get fruits that are appropriate to your work. That's just one example he gives of how agriculture helps form good dispositions of the soul. It's not magic. It's not as though perfect. Anyone who's ever planted seed in the earth will turn out to be a great person. But it's the mother of all arts. It cultivates the frame of mind of a craftsman.
Wow. It's interesting too, when you think of a household, those of us who are running a household tend to think of putting things in the household for the formation of our children. But the reality is, as being kind of dynamic beings within the household, we need guidance too. And so it's really amazing to think of the agricultural pursuit as something that makes the head of the household, that also continue to grow. It also continues to make you just people. It tends to make you into a better person, which is actually very exciting, that it's not just the children who are growing in these things, but that the adults who are distributing the household are also having an opportunity of something outside of them, making them grow into something that is beautiful.
And getting to do it all together. So I think we're going to have to wrap up this incredible thing. Just raised so many more issues we want to talk about. But I mean, let's just have this image, and it's an image you and I know, dear, we've been blessed to experience in our own life. And this is one reason why, by a generous providence, we feel this so strongly. That when you, for instance, just an example, when we work together in the garden, sometimes just you and I, but I mean, particularly with our children now, we don't have so much young children or with our grandchildren, you feel all of those connections
for sure.
Once.
So incredible.
We are so together. We are so in our bodies. We are so part of this lovely, lovely, natural world that is our home. There's just so many gift aspects. We're so alive. And in such a simple way, we're responding, we're saying no. We're saying no to the silliness and the ugliness and the disconnection and the alienation by just coming together and receiving that gift of working in this meaningful way, especially in a home. There's a kind of archetype of homesteading, of making our home a place of meaningful work that brings us together. We're not bragging to say this is a gift that's been given to us that we've started to taste. We want to learn how to do better, and we want to share more with others. So I think in the end, where are we? Everybody should think in terms of homesteading in that most important sense of making our home a place of meaningful work, especially realizing a kind of priority of the traditional home arts that connect you with your body and the earth as they connect you with one another. And perhaps then for you, the right thing is to look, all things considered. There's a lot to consider. We didn't go into that. We can address that separately. How do you think about how this fits with my profession? Proximity to family. These are real things. Those have to be properly weighed.
Yeah.
But it's worth taking a good look at maybe your homestead should be really on the earth.
Wow. Well, thank you for all those great thoughts and ideas. I just find them so beautiful and encouraging.
Well, let's keep talking. And that'll be a good lead-in for us to keep this conversation going.
Sounds good to me.